There's a familiar feeling that most of us know all too well, a kind of unease that comes from the constant nagging thought, I'm not doing enough. You wake up, dive into the day's tasks, and it feels like you're just playing catch-up. Maybe you're overwhelmed by your responsibilities or struggling to reach your goals. And yet, no matter how hard you push, the finish line seems to keep moving farther away. You work harder, faster, more efficiently, but something feels off. The harder you try, the less you feel in control. It's as if life is a game, but the rules aren't clear, and every move you make only seems to add to the chaos. Now imagine this scenario. You're standing at the edge of a vast chessboard. Every piece represents a part of your life, your career, your relationships, your inner world. You've been taught to think that the way to win is by making the right moves. You're told that success is just one strategic decision after another, a series of perfect moves that will eventually lead you to checkmate. But what if this isn't the game at all? What if the game is something else entirely? Something more subtle, more complex, and more tied to your psyche than your external achievements. The truth is, many of us are playing a game we don't even understand. Society tells us that success is about hustle, about working harder, about never stopping. But is that really the key to living a fulfilled life? Is winning simply about checking off goals and accomplishments? Or could it be that the game of life isn't won by trying to force outcomes, but by understanding the very rules that govern it? This is the illusion we live under, the belief that to win at life, we must fight against its natural flow. We've been conditioned to think that more effort equals more success, that busyness is a sign of progress, that relentless grinding will somehow get us closer to happiness. But what if that's not the truth? What if everything we've been told about working harder is leading us in the wrong direction? What if the true strategy for living a meaningful, fulfilling life has nothing to do with force or struggle, but everything to do with understanding the nature of the game we're playing? Here, we delve into a simple yet profound question. What if winning in life isn't about working harder or pushing forward relentlessly, but about understanding the game being played? What if our real challenge isn't to exert more willpower or energy, but to step back, observe, and play in alignment with the deeper rhythms of life itself? To truly grasp this, we must first understand what the game of life really is. At its core, life is a game of strategies, but not in the way most people think. We've been taught that life's challenges are to be tackled head-on, that we must control our environment, conquer our fears, and overcome every obstacle in our path. But life, when viewed through the lens of psychological and philosophical wisdom, reveals something much more intricate and nuanced. In the world of game theory, there are several types of games we could play, each with different strategies and outcomes. The most well-known form is the zero-sum game, where one player's gain is another player's loss. Think of it like two people playing poker. The more one person wins, the more the other loses. But life isn't a simple zero-sum game. It's much more complex, much more fluid. Many of the most important aspects of life, love, personal growth, even happiness, are not zero-sum at all. In these areas we could all win, but only if we know how to play the game in a way that isn't about domination or competition. This is where the philosophies of great thinkers like Carl Jung, Friedrich Nietzsche, and Viktor Frankl come into play. Jung, for instance, famously spoke of the shadow, the parts of our psyche we hide from ourselves. Life, when seen from this perspective, isn't just about the surface-level tasks we complete. It's about understanding the hidden forces that shape us, our desires, and our reactions. In this sense, the real game is one of self-awareness. To win, we must first understand the unseen dynamics that govern our behavior, our fears, and our motivations. Nietzsche's philosophy of the will to power adds another layer to this understanding. Nietzsche believed that our deepest drive isn't to survive, but to expand, grow, and assert our will upon the world. But here's the catch. That doesn't mean we need to control everything. The will to power isn't about domination in the traditional sense. It's about embracing life fully, accepting its challenges, and mastering ourselves, not by resisting life, but by engaging with it deeply. This suggests that the game isn't about trying to bend the world to our will, but about understanding how to use our own power wisely within the constraints of the world as it is. And then there's Viktor Frankl, whose philosophy centers around finding meaning, especially in the face of suffering. Frankl argued that the key to survival, and even to thriving, was to find purpose in every situation, no matter how dire. This might seem counterintuitive, but Frankl's insights highlight an important truth. The real game of life isn't won by avoiding pain, suffering, or adversity, but by how we respond to these challenges. Life's game is not about escaping hardship, but about finding a strategy that turns hardship into something meaningful. The tension between these ideas is crucial. On one hand, we're told to push forward, to hustle, to win at any cost. On the other hand, we're invited to reflect, to understand ourselves, to embrace our limitations, and to find meaning even in suffering. These two approaches might seem contradictory at first, but in truth, they are complementary. The first step in winning the game of life isn't about sheer force or willpower. It's about understanding which game you're actually playing. Are you caught in the illusion of control, battling against the currents of life? Or are you willing to step back, observe, and find your place in the flow of life? At this moment, the tension between these two worlds is palpable. You might be feeling like the character at the beginning of this story, caught between the pressure to succeed and the growing realization that something's not right. It's here that we begin to unravel the deeper layers of life's game. In the sections to come, we'll explore the rules of this game, how to spot them, and how to shift your strategy so that you can play life not from a place of force, but from one of understanding. In the end, the game of life isn't won by trying to control every move or overpower every obstacle. It's won by understanding the rules, finding your flow within them, and playing with intention. This isn't about giving up or surrendering to fate. It's about aligning yourself with the deeper patterns of existence and learning how to navigate them with skill and wisdom. And this is where the real transformation begins. To understand how we can play the game of life more effectively, we first need to dive deeper into what the game actually is. What are the rules that govern this intricate and often unpredictable system we find ourselves in? This is where the philosophies of some of history's greatest thinkers offer us valuable insights. Thinkers like Carl Jung, Friedrich Nietzsche, and Viktor Frankl. Their ideas not only help us understand life's game in a more profound way, but also provide us with tools to navigate it with more awareness and skill. Let's start by considering the psychological landscape. Life, at its core, is a system of patterns, and these patterns manifest in the way we think, act, and interact with the world. The first of these patterns is something that Carl Jung called the shadow, the unconscious part of ourselves that we often deny or suppress. According to Jung, we all have a shadow, a part of our psyche that contains the aspects of ourselves we are unwilling to confront. These are the hidden parts of us that we prefer to keep in the dark because they are often uncomfortable or unsettling. But here's the thing, the shadow is a crucial part of the game. When we suppress our shadows, we lose the opportunity to fully understand ourselves. The game of life, in this sense, isn't just about managing the external world. It's about navigating the internal world, the unseen forces that shape our desires, fears, and actions. Jung believed that until we recognize and integrate our shadow, we can't truly play the game of life consciously. We become reactive players, driven by unconscious impulses, rather than strategic thinkers who can make deliberate choices. The game is not just about overcoming external challenges. It's about understanding our inner world and how it interacts with the outer world. The more we try to suppress our shadows, the more power they have over us. But when we face them and integrate them into our psyche, we gain access to a deeper level of personal power. This is where the game of life becomes less about achieving external victories and more about understanding the forces at play within ourselves. The shadow is a vital piece of the puzzle, but so too is the concept of willpower, especially when seen through the lens of Friedrich Nietzsche's philosophy. Nietzsche's idea of the will to power is one of the most powerful psychological concepts that helps explain our drive to grow, expand, and assert ourselves. But contrary to popular belief, the will to power is not about dominating or controlling others. It's about mastering ourselves. Nietzsche argued that the ultimate form of power is the ability to direct one's energy, creativity, and inner strength toward a meaningful goal, something that resonates with our deeper sense of purpose. This brings us to the crucial distinction between external power and internal power. In the traditional game of life, we often think of power in external terms: success, money, status, influence. We believe that if we can control these external circumstances, we will feel fulfilled. But Nietzsche's philosophy suggests that true power comes from within. The real game isn't about controlling the world around us. It's about mastering ourselves. When we focus on external success, we play a zero-sum game where one person's gain is another's loss. But when we focus on internal mastery, the game shifts. It becomes a non-zero-sum game where we win by cultivating our inner strength and resilience. Nietzsche's call to become who you are is not about dominating the world, but about understanding and asserting your inner truth. Life, then, becomes a game of self-realization, where the goal is not to achieve external markers of success, but to become the most authentic version of ourselves. This is a shift in strategy. Instead of playing the game from a place of lack and fear, we play from a place of abundance and personal mastery. We learn how to respond to life's challenges, not by trying to control them, but by cultivating an inner strength that allows us to navigate them with grace and wisdom. Now, let's introduce another important concept: meaning. This is where Viktor Frankl's philosophy becomes vital. Frankl, a psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor, argued that the most important thing in life is not success or power, but meaning. According to Frankl, life's most profound challenges, suffering, loss, hardship, are opportunities for us to find and create meaning. This is where the true game of life reveals itself. Life is not about avoiding suffering or hardship, but about finding a way to face it with dignity and purpose. Frankl's idea of logotherapy centers around the belief that we can always choose our attitude toward any given situation. Even in the most dire circumstances, we have the power to find meaning. Frankl's personal experiences in concentration camps showed him that those who survived the greatest suffering were often the ones who were able to find meaning in their pain. The game of life, in this sense, is not about trying to escape hardship. It's about responding to it in a way that brings us closer to our core values and sense of purpose. But how does this fit into the broader structure of life's game? It's simple. Once we understand that the game isn't about avoiding pain or striving for external success, we can approach life in a completely new way. Life becomes a series of challenges and opportunities to create meaning. Every obstacle we face becomes an invitation to transform. The key is not to view difficulties as burdens, but as opportunities to grow and evolve. In this way, we stop seeing life as something we must control or conquer, and instead start viewing it as something we must engage with deeply, understanding that each moment has the potential to reveal deeper truths. In practical terms, this means we must rethink how we approach problems. If we believe that the game of life is one of competition, we might constantly feel like we're losing. If we believe it's about control, we'll be frustrated when we can't bend the world to our will. But if we start to see life as a series of interconnected patterns that offer us opportunities for growth and meaning, we shift the game entirely. Life becomes a cooperative game, not one of domination, but one of alignment, aligning ourselves with the natural flow of existence. This brings us back to the tension we explored earlier between force versus surrender. In the traditional narrative, we are told that life is a battlefield, and we must fight to win. But the real power lies in understanding that surrender isn't about giving up. It's about accepting what is and finding the wisdom to play within the constraints of reality. Life's game isn't about fighting against a current. It's about understanding it and learning how to move with it. This is where true freedom lies, not in exerting control, but in learning how to flow. In conclusion, the real game of life is not about striving for power, control, or external success. It's about understanding the deeper patterns at play, both within ourselves and in the world around us. By embracing concepts like self-awareness, internal power, meaning, and flow, we gain the tools to navigate life with wisdom and grace. The game is not about winning at all costs. It's about playing with awareness, authenticity, and purpose. Only then can we truly begin to understand the rules of life's game and start playing it to our fullest potential. After delving into the psychological intricacies of life's game, there comes a moment of profound realization, a shift in perspective that transforms how we understand our role within it. The truth begins to crystallize. Life is not about winning through force or control, but about understanding the deeper forces at play, surrendering to the natural flow, and finding meaning within the chaos. This insight is not an abstract idea. It is a visceral, emotional breakthrough, one that shifts the very foundation of how we engage with the world around us. Let's imagine for a moment that you are the character in this story. Perhaps someone who has been fighting life at every turn, struggling against the tides of circumstance, desperately trying to control every outcome. Your life has been a relentless pursuit of success, but you feel exhausted, disconnected, and unsure of what you're really working toward. There is no peace, no contentment, only the constant urge to achieve more. The weight of this ongoing battle grows heavier, and somewhere deep inside, you know that the rules of the game you've been following no longer make sense. This is the turning point, the moment when everything shifts. What if, instead of resisting, you simply stopped and let go? What if winning wasn't about pushing harder or trying to force a particular outcome, but about understanding that the game itself is far more complex than you've allowed yourself to believe? This realization is not just intellectual. It's felt on a deeply emotional level. In that moment, you realize that all your efforts to control and dominate were actually making the game more difficult than it needed to be. The paradox becomes clear. In surrendering control, we gain true mastery over our lives. This is the profound insight at the heart of the game of life. The more we try to force things, the more we struggle against the very flow of life. The real win is not in bending the world to our will, but in aligning ourselves with it. True success comes from understanding the nature of the game and choosing to navigate it with awareness and intentionality, rather than resistance and struggle. It is here that we move from mere survival to a life of meaningful engagement. This insight is not new. It has been articulated in various forms by the great philosophers and thinkers throughout history. Viktor Frankl, for instance, speaks of this exact shift in his book Man's Search for Meaning. Frankl's survival of the Holocaust, along with his experiences as a psychiatrist, gave him a unique understanding of human resilience. His central thesis is that meaning is the ultimate factor that enables individuals to survive suffering and hardship. But Frankl's concept of meaning goes deeper. It is not just about finding purpose in the grand scheme of things. It is about the attitude we take toward life's challenges. Frankl's central idea is simple yet profound. Even in the most unbearable situations, we can choose how we respond. His personal experience in concentration camps showed him that the people who were able to endure were the ones who found a deeper purpose, a reason to keep going, even in the face of unimaginable suffering. This insight speaks to the game of life itself, our ability to choose our response to circumstances, even when we can't control them. It is a victory that comes from within, from our ability to find meaning in what we experience, no matter how difficult or painful. The realization here is crucial. We don't need to control every outcome in order to live a fulfilling life. Instead, we need to learn how to respond with resilience and meaning. The game is not about avoiding suffering, but about transforming it into something that contributes to our growth. Embracing life's challenges, not fighting against them, is the key to moving beyond mere survival and into a state of true living. This is the emotional breakthrough that so many of us seek, but never quite reach until we let go of the illusion of control. In this shift from struggle to acceptance, we begin to understand that life's meaning is not something we impose on the world, but something we discover through our engagement with it. It's a revelation that opens up new possibilities. Life becomes a canvas where every experience, every interaction, and every challenge has the potential to be transformed into something meaningful. The key is not to resist what happens to us, but to engage with it fully, with presence and awareness. This transformation isn't just a mental shift, it's an emotional and existential one. Imagine, for a moment, what it would feel like to stop fighting against life, to let go of the need for things to be a certain way. Instead of forcing your will on the world, you begin to let go, surrendering not to defeat, but to the understanding that life's flow is far more powerful and intelligent than any attempt at control. The feeling is liberating. The anxiety that once accompanied every decision begins to fade, replaced by a deep sense of peace. In this peace, there is freedom, freedom to be yourself, freedom to move through the world without the constant pressure to control or to compete. This emotional shift doesn't mean that life suddenly becomes easy or that challenges vanish. On the contrary, the challenges may become even more intense. But the difference is in how you respond to them. Rather than feeling like a victim of circumstance, you approach each obstacle with a sense of empowerment, not because you control it, but because you understand how to navigate it. The realization that you can't control everything doesn't mean that you give up. It means that you stop fighting against what is and start responding to life with grace, wisdom, and intentionality. This leads us to a profound understanding. The game of life is not a battle to win, but a journey to be understood. When we approach life as a series of challenges to be met with awareness, we shift from the struggle of trying to win to the experience of learning and growing through every moment. The key to success in life is not about controlling the outcome, but about understanding the process. Mastery doesn't come from force. It comes from wisdom and presence. This is the true insight. To win at life, we must stop trying to control it. Instead, we must learn to play within its rhythms, its patterns, and its flows. Life becomes a game of awareness, not control. A game where every moment is an opportunity to engage, learn, and grow. When we surrender to the flow, we don't give up. We gain a deeper level of mastery over ourselves. The more we let go, the more we realize that we are not separate from life, but an integral part of its unfolding. The game of life is not something we fight against. It's something we dance with. This is the transformation. It is not about reaching a destination, but about embracing the journey itself. The emotional breakthrough comes when we stop measuring our worth by external achievements or the need to control outcomes, and start measuring it by our ability to engage with life fully, no matter what it brings. By doing so, we align ourselves with the deeper truths of existence and begin to play the game with wisdom, compassion, and insight. The more we surrender to the flow of life, the more we win. Because in the end, life is not about winning in the traditional sense. It's about becoming more alive, more present, and more attuned to the beauty and mystery of the game itself.